You're listening to Miscast Commentary.
Hey everybody, how's it going? And welcome to Miscast Commentary. I'm Joe Findlay.
Todd Tebow the Sailor Murray.
And we are calling from a bunker tonight where the Nintendo Switch is king. And
Yes, as all bunkers should have.
yeah, exactly.
You know,
Otherwise,
at least one blow-up doll, blow-up lamb, and a Switch.
Otherwise, you go right to the sodomy, and you
Oh,
you really want that to be a last resort.
Yeah, and come on, you got to have a nice build. You can't start with the end, with the climactic scene.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like Heath Ledger in Brokeback Mountain, just spit on his dick and jammed it in. Imagine what it would have been like had they not built up to that moment. He definitely
grainy and dry.
Yeah, he probably he would have sanded it.
That's how the movie starts.
Yeah.
It's as an Ang Lee film, and then bam, they're going at it.
Yeah, it's
raw.
like Randy Quaid just introduces them to each other, and they just start getting down and dirty.
Randy Quaid.
He's in that movie.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
He's in it. Ang Lee's gonna have
He's
to
up there
explain. I wonder if he's the one who broke him. Now that we're talking about it,
I think he did.
it's like I had to watch the Joker and Mysterio have sex.
In Mysterio.
I was gonna say Nightcrawler,
Yeah.
because again,
Yeah,
you're
exactly,
actually gonna
yeah.
hear a little bit about that. Oh no, you're not, because that
No,
is
you're
edited out
not.
of this bit.
Got a little too X-rated.
Mhm.
Had to chop it out.
But we've got an interesting episode for you today, because today
We do?
is a first.
It's weird that we're
Miscast
looking at each
commentary.
other.
Yeah, we're sitting at a regular table because we're not watching a movie today, so we're actually just.
It's kind of weird. It's
Yeah.
comfortable and shit.
I don't like it.
I don't like it either. I like it when my back hurts. I can feel it. It's
Yeah,
like
exactly.
suffering for our art.
Yeah, I need to put something into it. I need to sacrifice something. But what is interesting? Yeah, we had our very first interview from Miscast
We did.
Commentary.
I think it went really well too.
I did too.
There's some technical hiccups and
Yeah. Oh, well, let's just put all the cards on the table. He already knows about it. I contacted him. Our primary record just flat out failed.
yeah.
But I was so paranoid that our primary record was just going to flat out fail that I had a secondary and tertiary recording going all at the same time.
Sweet.
And they both worked. So we are going with the secondary recording. The tertiary recording is waiting just in case the computer breaks down before I post this episode.
Sweet.
Yeah. Or you just
I
breaking
didn't know
down
you
tertiary
said
in me?
tertiary, and I heard like turd shit. Then I was thinking about like a
Turd shit,
dictionary,
turd
dictionary
shit.
that's all about turds.
Yeah.
That's why I don't know why. I was.
Yeah, there's no A or B. It just goes to Cleveland Steamer.
That's right. Turd shit. Good word usage. The third one.
Yeah. Yeah. Dumb
Phone,
assholes.
and then we had this old stenographer lady.
Yes.
Could you go back to that? No. Just keep typing.
Yes. But before we unveil said interview, there is some important business to go over,
There sure is.
because we need to announce what the next movie is going to be.
Yes, we do.
And the
I
man...
don't even know what it is.
Okay. Well, the man we interviewed, he basically requested a movie
Oh,
of us, and
I know it now.
yeah, I'm back up today. Well, it's hard because we do these so out of order and
Yeah.
ahead of time that
Oh, who knows? Time's out of order.
yeah, exactly right. It's all what's it
It's all
called?
relative.
Yeah, it's all happening at once inside a mysterious bookcase. So yeah,
Rey Mysterio.
Rain.
How the bookcase got there.
Oh, I was thinking like Matthew McConaughey
Ooh.
crying.
Yeah.
I'm not aging. It was kind of actually, now I'm thinking about, one of his most famous lines is, "I keep getting older and they keep staying the same age." This was literally the opposite. He didn't age while his kids got old.
Is that Interstellar?
Yeah.
Oh my God. I think I fell asleep.
I just
Woke
dropped my
up,
mic.
attempted suicide,
Yeah.
and then was like, wow, it's the magical bookcase. I was like, holy fuck.
And that's where all time is exists.
Oh, God.
So deal with it.
The most overrated director working today, Christopher Nolan. I just said the truth.
He's not letting him off the hook, ladies and gentlemen.
I
That's
don't
all I
give
can
a
say.
fuck.
Yeah, Christopher Nolan, call in if you disagree.
I'm saying that even over top of Rennie Harlan, because after the first Rennie Harlan, you know what you're getting. Okay,
Rennie
not with this guy.
Well, Rennie Harlan, he needed to have been rated highly to be overrated. Nobody rated him highly.
Well, exactly. That's
So,
why Christopher Nolan is my pick for
All right.
Schmutz of the Year.
Schmutz?
Yep.
It's like he's just a little stain on your
He's
shirt.
a schmutz, I tell you.
It's like a schmuck?
Schmutz of the century.
I was
no,
called
schmutz.
I was called a schmuck today.
You were not.
Yeah, my mom called me a schmuck.
Yeah, well, you probably deserved it.
Yeah. Well, I was telling my daughter that it's not pronounced smuck, it's pronounced schmuck. And then I was called a schmuck. It was a real play on words.
That sounds like it was a good tete-a-tete.
It was
little titty.
Yeah. It was not a titty to titty with my mom. Thank you very much. But let's jump back into what we were originally talking about.
Yes,
we went to so anyways, we get the request, and I'm like, and then we agreed we were going to do this interview, and he's going to explain why he wanted us to do this and all that. It's a great interview, so just tune in. Just stay tuned in. It's going to be on in like a couple of minutes. But we are doing the 1990s video game adaptation, Double Dragon. We said it twice to get we said it together in unison, like the Lee
counts
brothers.
As two though.
Yeah, exactly. Otherwise, it would have been Single Dragon.
We should get that necklace. I wonder if you can find that at Comic Book Land. On whatever day
I'm sure they made it at some point. But yeah, so anyways, we were doing Double Dragon. Let us just have a quick look at the trailer.
2007, Los Angeles. The city has changed. Cops rule the day. Punks rule the night. And one man wants to rule them all. There's only one thing he needs to succeed.
This is only half of it. Find me the other half now.
And look who's got it.
It magnifies the power inside you. This half gives power over the body.
Now, two brothers will stop at nothing to protect their half.
Look out!
And a madman will stop at nothing to possess it.
You're gonna love this.
Let's have some fun.
Who wants gum?
If they succeed, they're heroes. But if he does, they're history.
Time to skin you guys.
T2's Robert Patrick, Scott Wolf, Mark Dacascos, and Alyssa Milano. Double Dragon.
You said it. We don't really have to wear these, do we?
All right, so that's it. Strap in, ladies and gentlemen.
Strap in, because you'll want to leave.
We're going
to get somebody else to strap you in, and then you'll be forced to.
And we are going down a rabbit hole that goes beyond Double Dragon. You hear more about that in this interview because there's a special announcement in the interview. But now to talk about the subject of our interview, we have author, speaker,
comic book writer,
author,
published author.
It's just literally the first thing I said.
You didn't say published.
Okay, but usually when you say
I'm an author. I write pages in a notebook, rip them out, and throw them off the balcony.
Nobody's ever been able to read one of those pages.
It is literally looks like you stuck a pen up a chicken's ass and they made it run across the paper.
Yeah, chopped the pen off first.
What is this?
It looks like Todd writes in cuneiform. It's just,
it is, right? But I believe that I secretly started the @ symbol with my two shaped A's.
Yes,
like that. So you could carry that right around to the @ I should sue the makers of the @ symbol.
Yet he's only tweeted like 4 times. No,
that's why I'm deserving of probably so many zeros after the number in front of it. That
he should get $250 million for each one of his tweets.
Yes.
So he's trying not to drain the world economy.
Exactly. I'm doing you a favor. Thanks.
All right. So hey, remember that guy who's done all those things? He's author, all that kind of good stuff. His name is B.J. Mendelson. And we sat down with him for a very lengthy time. He was kind enough, and he stuck it out with us.
He was a cool guy. I liked him.
Yeah, and so
he had really no reason or business to hang around that long, yet he did.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm usually done with this about 20 minutes in.
Yeah, that's when the phone in happens. Literally, he leaves the room, puts a phone, and then I just hear him through the phone.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think it's a recording.
Usually it is.
You said it, Todd.
Yeah.
You said it, Todd. I'm like, oh, what the fuck? Like,
yeah. It's all from a movie we still haven't even done yet, too. I was like, man, you keep mentioning Ralph Fiennes a lot. Let us now take a listen to this interview. We are here with author, comic book creator, speaker, all around good guy, and our very first guest.
Social media hater.
Oh,
Yeah,
we are here with
that's
BJ
right.
Mendelson. BJ, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much,
Hey.
dude. First guest.
Thank you, guys. I sure hope we went with the right movie for your first guess. But...
Oh my!
It should have been
Lord.
Showgirls, but pretty close.
Yeah, exactly. That's always Todd's. It's Showgirls or Beaches.
Showgirls are bust.
Yes.
Okay. Beaches. That's a hot take. I can see people wanting to fight on that one.
He's got an interesting.
It's a hot movie
take.
too.
Yeah.
If you watch Beaches and you get through the whole thing without having a rage boner, like you're a better person than me. I tell you that.
It's all rage with him too. It's horrifying.
I need the anger, or else it's not going to happen.
So, we talk about your books. You have social media is bullshit. You have
Sure.
you have privacy, and we want. I just need to know right now. Is our Facebook page the reason Donald Trump got elected?
Would it help if I said yes?
No.
It helps
Okay.
me
Yeah.
sleep at night.
Yeah.
It had nothing to do with it.
Okay.
I totally
Yeah.
wanted to speak to you about this because
Okay.
I know you do not hate, the tool itself,
Right.
but you're very educated about it. And I've always, for literally no reason at all, hated social media. Asked this guy, I was like
Okay.
the last guy to have a cell phone, total Luddite.
Yeah.
And then I saw that you wrote the book, Social Media is Bullshit, which I think you should have put an exclamation point at the end of the word bullshit, like you were screaming it
so.
and then throwing your phone. This is bullshit, and then throw it. But I dig your style on that. And were you totally
Thank you.
like, fuck you, everybody? Can we swear into this thing?
Well, we swear in every other episode. I don't think we should stop now.
Okay.
Okay.
So
that's good. That's-
were you totally like, totally awesome, like fuck everybody when you were saying
Yes.
that social media is bullshit, and then suddenly we find out what you've always known, which is like it's so rigged that it's disgusting, and Mark Zuckerberg is actually an android with human skin stretched over top of him.
Right. He looks a lot like Data, or so the internet tells me. He looks a little bit like
He
Data from
does.
Next Generation.
Like who?
Data.
Oh my god, you're right.
I have never thought
Yeah.
about that before, and now
Oh.
I can think of nothing else.
You have to Google this. Just Google Mark Zuckerberg Data, and it's fantastic. It'll make your day.
Yeah. Did you feel a little bit of vindication when you've got your book about privacy and then everything comes out with him? Were you holding your book out the window going,
Yeah.
I told
So-
you?
This has happened twice now. So I started writing like social media is bullshit in 2010. So I was a little ahead of the curve, and then it was just after all the stuff started to happen, I was like, yep, I totally called it. And then, yeah, the privacy book also was written in 2015, 2016. And so now you've got Zuckerberg in front of the European Union Parliament this morning and then the Congress. And yeah, I try very hard not to say I told you so. Like, I don't want to be that guy. But there's certainly been some moments where I've just sort of sat there going, I fucking told you.
Yep.
You
Yep.
are an infinitely better man than either one of us, because I still wouldn't be. I was like this. We would have had to cancel the podcast, and that would just be
Yeah.
be me. You would see just photos of Todd crying and reaching for me, going, "You need to eat. It's been months."
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, oh my God.
I say I told you so, and I didn't even come out with a book on the matter.
No, yeah, exactly.
Well, I had a lot of that. I had a lot of people that would come into the store who had no idea who I was or what the book was about. And they would look at the title and they would hold up the book over their head proudly and then circle around the store.
Nice.
So that's happened a few times. So yeah, there's been a number of people who have thought that way.
Well, it's like that Sally Field Union moment, right? The strike moment. It's like this
Yes.
is it's
They walk in with Dianetics, throw it on the ground in a rage, pick your book up and hold it high.
exactly.
There's a new god in town.
And somebody was crushed under the giant Dianetics book.
Exactly.
What was your motivation to write, especially the second book? So you've got the first book out.
Right.
Was it kind of, did you think of it more as like, I need to elaborate on what I said by digging into the privacy? Or was
So-
it, I have a whole nother point to make?
There's a book sandwiched between the two of them that Ghost wrote for like this tech company executive. It'll probably never see the light of day, but basically it was about if you dangle billions of dollars in front of 18, 19, 20-year-olds, they're gonna do some really shitty stuff to get that $1 billion, and it's hard, it's hard to fault them, right? So that's really where the privacy stuff came from. Is as I was going through that book and doing the research, I was like, okay, well, the first thing that goes out the window is your data, because you have no idea what the fuck is going on with it to begin with. So all of these kids are gobbling it up and using it. My favorite example, there's a company. Do you guys watch Shark Tank?
Yeah, I have watched Shark Tank.
Okay, I'm not a fan of Shark Tank for this reason. These guys were on Shark Tank. I know them personally, and they came on and they're like, oh, we're just a humble little startup, and we, I can't say their name because I'm going to get into a world of shit.
Okay.
But
I'll
the
say
story,
their names.
No, you
Send it to me over text.
Yes, I can definitely do that. So the story they told was complete bullshit. What they actually did was they broke into the student directory for a lot of colleges in the Midwest, and they downloaded all of the emails and just spammed the shit out of all of those college students. And that's actually how they grew. And so that's really what the book was about. And that led to the privacy book, where I was like, they're not alone. Like, everyone is doing this. So, like, the thing I tell people is that Cambridge Analytica thing is, as frightening as it might be, they were not alone. And there was that was a common practice between 2014 and 2017.
Well, it's like everything, too. It's just even when you go on Facebook and the thing you checked out on Amazon but didn't buy is now sitting in front of your face, and you close your drapes and hide under the table. And
or when you say something, you have a conversation about something, you didn't look it up, and then the next time you go on in your news feed on your phone is like that issue.
Yeah, what's scary about that?
Is that a real thing? Is that, I swear that happened to me after they said it.
No, but
so the theory is that, like, Facebook can do it. If they publicly say they can't, they can. What's more likely is there's something else on your phone that's collecting that data and selling it to Facebook.
Way to go.
That's more likely. I mean, but I can't dispute whether or not Facebook is doing it, because I know for a fact they technically can do it.
Oh, right on. Well, not right on. That's probably not the right thing to say.
I looked up nothing about Jennifer Aniston and Justin Theroux's breakup, but I spoke about it, and then it was in my news feed, and I was like, whoa.
Well, it was also like big piece of news. That would be like when Osama bin Laden was caught. Is like, what, I talked about him with somebody the other day. Now all of a sudden it's on the headlines.
That happened to me too. I was talking about that volcano thing in Hawaii, and there it is on my phone.
Yeah,
I'm like, they're watching me.
So Todd doesn't necessarily get the difference between the news and privacy.
There is no difference.
There might not be. I'm talking about doing like this not serious at all podcast with my friend Jackie, and we're like, okay, we're gonna get high and watch Batman the Animated Series. And so the first episode is going to be with Red Claw. I haven't thought about Red Claw in like 25, 30 years, or however old that show is now. Next thing I know, I'm seeing shit for Red Claw.
That happens.
In Facebook.
No word of a lie. Just a side thing. We were talking about. It was a band. What was the band? Oh, it was In the Night Sweats.
Something, yeah.
It was. I can't remember something in the
What's
Night
his name
Sweats.
in the Night Sweats?
And and we were just talking about him, and then he went home, and then I texted him just a screenshot from my phone on Colbert. That band was playing. I was like, that's just how our lives work. So every time we talk about something, it appears immediately, like we wished for it.
That's awesome. I hope that helps with book sales. I'm gonna,
for real,
no doubt. But I mean, it is, it's one of those things, and we've done several movies now where they became so much more relevant after they came out. Like when the movie came out, I'm trying to think of specific examples right now, but a great one actually would be Canadian Bacon was a really good example at the time, where it seemed like such an out there, stretched out satire, and then as you kind of get deeper and deeper, you're like, oh, this is just kind of what it is now, isn't it? Like it's what it feels like, and it's been so much more relevant, and I feel that way when I saw again the release of your books and then what's been going on more recently. It's almost
a little weird, man. A little weird.
It's like that Stranger Than Fiction. You've been writing it down and then it's been coming to fruition.
Okay, well, I want to ask, where did your this wanting to look into the internet and social media, like where did that start? Where did you find this information as well? Like where do you look for this kind of thing?
Back when I was 18, I wanted to be a stand-up comedian. And in New York State, if you're under 21, you're not allowed in a bar. So I was having trouble getting on shows because they're like, we can't have you in the case that we get spot checked or something. So I said, all right, if I rent out your venue, could I do comedy? Like, yeah, you can do whatever the fuck you want if you rent out the bar. So I did 55 of those shows up and down the East Coast where I was doing comedy and working with bands, and I had no other money beyond what I was paying to rent out the place. So I was entirely dependent on the internet to promote those shows. So like really early on, 1998, 99, I was using like GeoCities and Friendster and MySpace and Facebook back when it worked, and all the different platforms just to see if I can get a little bit of an edge in terms of drawing people out. So that led to like Sprint and Ogilvy and Mather and Sears back when Sears was a thing, coming to me for like consulting work to do advertising on the internet. And
Like
that's sort of where
Sears?
all this happened. What was that?
Like Sears, like the
Yes, Sears.
like the bra section that I'm not allowed in anymore. That's why they closed the chain down, by the way. Just to let you know. They kicked me out of that one. I go next town over.
That's crazy. So you basically, you kind of, you've now circumvented all of that, and like, what were your biggest findings? Like, so you've done all of that, and it was like, how does that come out in the end? So now you've done your shows, and
so the big thing was I found, and I found this again throughout. So it's been over a decade now, which is kind of frightening. But I found over and over again that it was the offline stuff that mattered the most.
okay.
And if you did the offline stuff right, that would drive the online stuff. Like they would, if you got people excited, then they would go online and do the promotion for you instead of like you doing the promotion for your thing.
Okay.
And so this is a crazy story, but I don't know if you guys remember, but there was a race to 1 million followers on Twitter. Ashton Kutcher, CNN.
Oh, I think that was back in the day.
Yeah.
I think I remember that,
so
actually.
here's,
Didn't Ashton Kutcher blow them out of the water?
no, there was a lot of shady shit with that. But here's the thing: it was Ashton Kutcher, CNN, Oprah, and then me.
Oh.
Like I was number 4 behind them, and yeah. So what happened was Twitter rolled out this suggested user list. So it was like 28 celebrities and then me. And I used to get really excited because Bill Cosby was on the list, and then there was my face under him, and now I'm not so excited about that connection.
Yeah. Nobody wants their face under Bill Cosby.
or anywhere near Bill Cosby at this point. So they had that suggested user list, and what was happening was everyone was auto-following these accounts, including mine. So people weren't really following Ashton Kutcher or CNN. There was just all the news coverage was bringing people in, and they locked it so that you couldn't unfollow Ashton or CNN. So it was a bunch of shady shit that went on with that. But I tell you that because I was like, all right, close to 1 million followers, I should be able to raise money. I should be able to sell books for things. I sold maybe 28 books using Twitter, where the book went on to sell about 7,000 copies through offline stuff. And so that was the big takeaway, was even those years later when I was like, all right, let's see if this stuff works. It was the offline stuff that mattered most.
Wow. I'll tell you though, you got to be named up amongst those people, your Oprahs and your Ashton Kutchers, and I just literally lost my mind when Kadeem Hardison liked a tweet that I did.
Oh yes.
I still have that. I'm a big fan of women's wrestling, so anytime any of those women like something that I posted on Twitter, I still get very excited about it.
Wait, which female wrestler liked something you did?
So Mia Yim and Diamante.
Sweet. You know what?
Yeah,
I was gonna. You brought me there already.
Okay.
So I was gonna go here with you because I looked on your website. I was like stalking you online, which is what you do when you look at things online.
Right.
It's called research, sort of.
Yeah, that's what they. Well,
That's right.
I'm sweating and kind of giggling, so it's kind of stalking, really. And so I saw what you said about 205 Live and how like you think that it would be a good idea for them to put women in there. Okay, first of all, it's not fair for Charlotte Flair to fight any of those dudes because she would mop the floor with them.
That's true.
But
that's very true.
I don't think that you give 205 Live enough credit because I personally think that 205 Live is the best show on the WWE Network.
Yeah,
it needs more promotion, but constant This Is Awesome chants and like A+ matches. But adding women in would be the great because you just add sexy women to anything really, and it's going to be better.
Well, I mean, like when I wrote that was I think before Enzo was the champ. I think it was when Neville kind of vanished, and then they were sort of struggling with what they were going to do. So the show is much better now. Like but just before WrestleMania, the show has been my favorite personally. So I agree. I do think it would be good. I'm a big proponent of intergender wrestling because it's a show. Like if Daenerys Targaryen can light up an entire army with men with her imaginary dragon,
Sexy Star.
Yeah, Sexy Star.
Well, yeah,
Sexy Star is the actual legit champ over in wherever that one is.
Yeah, Lucha Underground.
New Japan, or Lucha, that's right. They have intergender matches all the time in the other companies.
Right.
So why, I don't know, it's probably, like you said, it's probably the old white dudes in the office are probably going to have a heart attack.
Yeah.
They're probably still not
it'll
over
be
that
a
we're letting
while.
them wrestle. Is she going to take her boobs out? No. Oh my God.
Well, that's used to be what upset Vince McMahon.
Yeah.
They're not going to take their boobs out. Well, forget it
Right.
then. I wash my hands of the whole thing. Okay, so we go off of the books, but I do suggest highly that people go and check these books out. Social media is bullshit. Privacy and how we get it back. Just it's especially now more than ever. Get the hell off your Facebook and go check out this book.
Yeah, for real. Everybody should get off Facebook. Wait, this sounds like you're winding down or something.
No, I'm not. No, I'm transitioning to the next thing.
Okay, wait a second. I'm not finished yet.
Okay, Todd's got some.
Okay, so wait a second. I looked you up on the interneting when I was finished with pornography, which is what it was really made for. I don't know what all these other things are going on.
It's true.
There. But I saw that you actually fist fought the ambassador to Pakistan in the UN parking lot.
I wish that was the actual story. Like that would be so cool.
Pretty badass, dude.
Yeah, no, I was a substitute teacher in a pretty rough city, and so I got along with those kids. I love those kids, but my tactics was basically to keep them in line through like scare tactics. So what I would do is I took this idea from my dad, who was a teacher in the Bronx for like 40 years. There is nothing scarier to a kid than having to tell their mom why they're interrupting their mom's workday because of their misbehavior. Yeah. And so there used to be a phone in the front of the classroom. I'd be like, all right, if you act up, I'm going to make you sit in the front of the classroom. And if you act up again, you're going to actually dial this phone and call your mom. I'm going to get the number from the office, and you're going to have to explain in front of the entire class why you're being a dick. And so 9 times out of 10, that worked beautifully. That kept them under control, but it became that they were afraid of me. And so this one girl named Boutique, she kind of cornered me, and she's like, Mr. Mendelson, I ain't afraid of you. I'm going to beat you up after school. Ooh. I said, okay, I'll see you in the parking lot. And the kids go, oh! So that's why I tell people I was challenged to a fight by an 8th grader. I did debate the ambassador of Pakistan at the United Nations, but he didn't challenge me to a fight, although he probably should have. That would have been way more entertaining than like the actual debate, because he would just talk in circles and you'd be like, make a fucking point. And he would be like, oh, the sun and the moon in ancient Babylon. It's like, holy shit, there's another hour of this.
Nothing more frustrating than seeing that, too, because then you could say, I'm not making a point. And you're like, no, you're just not smart enough to get. No, I am. That's the problem.
Yeah. No, they just talk around in circles like politicians. But you were at the UN, though.
Yeah, so I was at the UN debating the ambassador to Pakistan.
They invite you to that kind of thing? You get like a letter or something, and they say, come to the UN? And
they're really formal about it. Like, I thought I was getting punked. Like, I thought for sure. The email came in, and I was like, "Fuck you! This is not this is not the United Nations." I sat on it for like 2 weeks, and finally, I'm like, I checked. I texted all my friends. It's like, "Hey, did you send me this thing from the United Nations?" Like, no. What thing? So I did text them, and it was real. And then they like had like a whole thing. There was like a formal letter that came in the mail, and then they went down there and they had like a formal thing to greet everybody at the door. So it was kind of overwhelming, because that was my first speaking engagement for Social Media is Bullshit. Wow. So like right out of the gate, I was at the United Nations
swinging for the fences.
Yeah, that is wonderful. No disrespect, but I'm coming out with a book called The Internet is Hooey. It's 75% cheaper than your book.
It's for kids,
and it's like a pop-up. It's like a pop-up thing.
Yeah.
So it's just a little friendly competition, bro. Don't you know?
That's great.
And I'll come to someone's house and tell them the internet sucks for pretty much a free lunch.
I did that for years. So to me, it's like, all right. I was like, all right, I'm past the stage. I had heart surgery. I almost died from a heart attack in Wales. I was like, all right, I can only do like 12 of these a year. Yeah. So the only way to do it is to charge. And so that's the only reason why I do it. But for years, I was like,
I'm totally just being a dick. That's my job.
It's fine. But by way of comparison, like those guys in that space usually make like $200,000 per presentation.
Oh, yeah.
Which is insane to me. Like, I can't imagine paying anyone that kind of money for one presentation.
Yeah. Well, I always saw that. I remember the big stories. I think it was after Clinton was done, where they were saying, oh, he's making like, $5 million per engagement. And I'm like, oh, so I just need to become the president of the United States. I got a few hurdles to get over being Canadian. But other than that.
Oh, you can get in there.
They'll figure it out. Schwarzenegger.
Martin Van Buren was apparently Canadian.
Who was this?
Martin Van Buren was allegedly not an American citizen. And he was said to be Canadian, so it's very possible that hurdle isn't there.
I've always told people Martin Van Buren was going to be my in. I just didn't know
There
how.
you go.
No. You can be from somewhere else and still be the first lady. Look at Melania. You could be the
Melania?
first man. You'll be the first gay lady man.
Todd purposefully mispronounces names just to make me upset. I just
Okay.
want to put you.
Okay.
Put that
Okay. If Donald Trump can't spell his own wife's name correctly, why do I have to pronounce it correctly?
That's true. That is
Fair
completely
enough.
true.
Okay, but yeah, so we jump off the books now, and I want to talk to you about Vengeance Nevada. I read the first issue today.
Okay.
And it was fantastic.
I liked it too.
To not spoil anything, because I do think people should go out and check this thing out. But I'm hooked right away when I get a Star Wars reference in something that's not Star Wars. So
There's one in each issue.
yeah. Oh, perfect. So you it's almost like you knew I was your audience. Again, probably the social media.
When I was farting around on your website, I knew when I saw Rockbiter from the Neverending Story and I saw the wrestling, I was like, this guy's right at my alley. He hates social media. I'm like, this guy is probably my illegitimate brother or something.
I very well could be. I was Santa Claus, so it's possible. I'm reading
that's
your
right.
mind
It
as
says
well.
there to you, right?
You were, and Todd was a Santa Claus when we worked together at a restaurant.
Yeah, that's
really?
pretty quick.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Let me tell you,
Yeah.
not allowed at the mall anymore.
The wrong people. The wrong people were sitting on his lap, and he wasn't happy with it.
Oh yes.
Can I tell you about the best part about being the mall Santa is I didn't even know they were hiring. I just sort of walked into the mall one day
As
and they had
Santa.
a booth. No, well, I should have. You dressed for the job you want. So they just had this little booth. I walked up to it. I was like, "Hey, I'm looking for a job. What are you hiring for?" She goes, "Santa Claus." I said, "I could be Santa Claus." And she goes, "You're hired."
Nice.
Wow, that's
So I
all
got
the
this.
qualifications you need.
That's like the old movies that take place in the 50s when you wanted a job and you'd go in and you'd just take the help wanted side off the window. That's awesome. But yeah, so anyways, I'm reading the book and it's got a lot of things. The first issue definitely always, as in the case with any comic or anything, leaves a lot of questions going, because you're meeting these new characters. You're like, oh, what are they all about? And obviously you're learning a lot about these things, and you're going to learn more in the future. But what inspired you to line this kind of story up?
So there's a couple things. Like I started reading comics in the early 90s. And so for people that remember comics in the early 90s, it was all like anti-heroes, right? It was like the Punisher, and Venom has his own series, and Ghost Rider. And I always loved Ghost Rider. He's my Twitter cover photo, but Ghost Rider is really fucking boring. So much so that, like, at the height of his popularity, they had the Infinity Gauntlet crossover, and Ghost Rider is nowhere to be found because the writers didn't know what to do with him. Like, he was just too powerful. So, like, we're going to pretend he doesn't exist. So it started with a challenge. It was like, okay, can I make Ghost Rider interesting? So that was the first thing. The second thing, I'm a huge fan of the Venture Brothers.
Oh my God, me too.
And I hate how long it takes between seasons. And so I almost died between seasons. And I was in the hospital. I was texting my friend Jackie. I was like, look, I'm not sure if I'm going to be alive by the time season 6 comes out. So I'm going to do a comic book that's got the same tone and the same sort of humor and depth as the Venture Brothers, but we're going to do it with an all-female cast, because the thing that Jackie and I always talk about is that the female characters in the Venture Brothers, aside from Dr. Miss the Monarch, really don't have any depth to them. Like Triana Orpheus is a sex object, Molotov Cocktail is a sex object. There's like, I'm forgetting a couple of them, but you get the idea. Like, they really don't serve much of a purpose.
Spot on.
So with everything that's going on now and all of these female superheroes and whatnot in Avengers and your Wonder Woman, and that becoming more prevalent, has that kind of validated you a little bit in creating?
No,
not
at all. The only reason why we went, so I've gotten this question a lot because people are like, "Oh, you're writing the social justice wave." I'm like, well, I don't mind it, but that's not why I did it. I did it because I'm better at writing women than I am men, because all of the women I write are people that are based on people I know.
Yeah.
And I've just been one of those people that throughout life, like 99.9% of my friends are all women.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was just easier for me to be like, oh, Kristen's actually based off of someone I know, who's Mohawk. And so some of her stories and experience really informs what Kristen's story is, because Kristen is Native as well in the comic. And so that's really why I went with an all-female cast, because I was like, okay, I can write this better.
Nice.
Whereas if I'm writing dudes, I'm going to really struggle, and it's going to turn into what you see in the movie, where every scene they're high-fiving each other and making a joke.
Well, it's
I was
because Scott Wolf doesn't know karate.
Clearly.
But no, but what I was suggesting wasn't that you were inspired by that. It was that this kind of happened because, I mean, you had this obviously underway a long time before anybody ever saw Avengers, and then you get to see all these strong women all at once, and you're like, I have this woman thing, and now people are getting to see that and loving it.
Yeah,
and that's
yeah.
that kind of like, isn't this like this
It
is
works
amazing?
out.
It's like I'm doing this almost before it was cool.
We see, you notice the trends with my books. I tend to always be like a few years ahead.
right.
Adventures of Ada, that started in 2015.
Yeah. So
Like it's been in the works for that long. So I mean, that's when that conversation started for that book.
yeah, that's
Ahead of the curve, bro. Ahead of the curve.
Yeah, you're definitely a soothsayer, and I'm not going to ask when I die because I'm afraid it's way too
Oh,
soon.
Lord.
I had a lot
Oh,
of
shit.
3 months from now.
Yeah.
That's actually
You can't wait that long? You can't know.
I assumed I turned my air conditioner off, so I assumed it was going to be by the end of the evening.
It might be.
That's amazing though, but I really liked the art in this thing.
I dug that it was black and white too. I really liked it.
But the highlights of color and stuff, it draws your attention to that one thing as you're reading through, and you just get this one little bit, and it's just like, oh, I bring my eye over here. I really, really enjoyed I really enjoyed it. I'll be honest, I don't read a lot of comics. The first comic I read in ages was a compendium of Star Wars Empire comics.
What a surprise.
I know, that's all me. And
Very
again,
cool.
and I was like, but in preparation for the interview, I was like, I got to check this thing out, and I was going through it, and I've read it 2.5 times since I got it this afternoon.
That's perfect.
And it was really, really cool, and I'm looking forward to seeing what happens with the rest of it.
Well, that's how it's designed too. I like that you said that because my problem with comics today is that they explain everything to you. There's a lot of hand holding and there's no depth to it. You spend $5 for a comic and you're done in like 10 minutes and then you just move on to the next thing. You can read it at least 3 different times and still catch things. Like the ending to the series is actually in the first issue.
Yeah.
Hidden away in there.
Yeah, I
did stuff like that.
but I didn't want to say anything.
Oh, you did not. Whatever.
It was just kind of like I got to a point and I was like, who's this person talking to? Again, I don't want to spoil anything, obviously,
right.
But it's kind of like, what's happening here? And I'm like, oh, this must be a big flash forward. So I was just kind of like, yeah, it was really cool, and it made me feel. It was definitely really smartly written because it made me feel like, am I missing something? But indeed, it was just because it was leaving those questions, and then that's what I realized. It's like, oh, it's like the beginning of a TV show or anything. You're not supposed to have the answers.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Like when you watch Westworld or one of these shows, and you're like, man, like, but then as the episodes go on, they explain themselves, like what Lost was supposed to be.
Yeah,
but turned out to be
Right.
absolutely nothing. Wait,
it turned out to be something different, which actually happens in this movie too, right? Like you're watching very clearly they had like this vision, right, of and they didn't explain anything to you other than, oh, the big quake and here's this strange city, and then they just sort of drop you into it. But what I would like to think is that I have a plan as opposed to this movie that we're going to talk about.
Yeah.
So,
well, yeah, I was going to say, well, we might as well just get into that because you do owe us an explanation. Just give a little bit of backstory. A long time ago, we put out to anybody that we would do requests. Like, we're not, as much as we like to do the movies we want to do, we would entertain any requests. And then we get a tweet from Mr. BJ Mendelson who says, you need to see this movie. Or we need to do this movie, and this movie is Double Dragon. So explain yourself, sir.
All right, so there's really two things going on. The first is that I'm a bit of a practical joker. So there was a little bit of trolling involved. I've done that with every single movie podcast.
Yeah.
Okay, so I have this list, and I talked about this on the interviews, but I've got this list of about 10,000 active podcasts. Mm-hmm. About 2,000 or so of them are movie podcasts. So as when you go through any big research project, you have to amuse yourself.
Yeah.
So as I was going through the list, I'm like, I'm going to message all of them and tell them to watch Double Dragon and see how many of them I could get to actually do it. Only one of them had already done it. FilmSack had already done an episode on Double Dragon. Everyone else was like, I've never seen this movie before. Tell me more, stranger. So I was kind of pleased. The second thing was I was curious because I've spent a lot of time as a journalist, working for different media outlets, and I was always curious about, can you make something a thing? Like, can I make Double Dragon? Can I make Fetch happen? Can I make Double Dragon a thing? And so I was curious to see what would happen if I got as many of the movie podcasts as I could to talk about Double Dragon, because it's perfect for the 90s nostalgia wave that's happening right now.
Yeah.
So I was like, all right, if I can get all of them to talk about, will this become a thing? Or are we going to talk about, will we see articles about it? Like Face Off last year had its 20th anniversary.
Mm-hmm.
And so there was like this wave of nostalgia for Face Off. I'm like, what if we could do that for Double Dragon? And so that's sort of why I plus also I enjoyed the show. Which goes without saying. Like, I didn't contact people where I thought the show sucked, because I just didn't care.
Well,
I just didn't want to hear what they had to say. So I also enjoyed the show. So it's like, all right.
I was literally just going to say how unimpressed I suddenly was when you said you just spam mailed every single podcast to see, and we're like that one girl at the bar after you went to every girl and got a slap, and we're that sad bitch at the end of the bar crying, and you walk up, we're like, hey there, yeah, I'll come home with you, you know?
That being said, we are that sad bitch, so I don't really know what that was. I'm pretty sure that's what I wrote in our mission statement.
Yeah.
Well, there you go.
Yes.
No, to me, it was important, like that the shows are something I actually listen to. So I do actually listen to all the shows that I was like, I will pitch them.
Nice.
Like, it's worth actually going on and spending an hour or two to talk about, as opposed to suffering through it. Because there's been like some really bad podcast interviews that I've done, but so I thought it was important to actually like the material and content.
Well, we appreciate that. All right, so we want to thank BJ again for doing that, and we are going to hear a lot more from him next week. We are going to have excerpts from our interview during the episode when we talk about specific scenes of the movie, so you'll hear more from him then. But also, because we talked for such a long time, we talked just shy of 2 hours with him. And
What a surprise, huh?
I know. Hey, what did we go for? We go too long? No. So there was just so much in there. We couldn't put it all in anywhere. We couldn't put it all in here. We couldn't put it all in the next episode. So we are going to not air, but we're going to release the entire interview uncut.
Boom. Extended edition.
So yeah,
we talk about the making of.
Yeah,
there's other videos. It's gonna be amazing.
The miniatures department is gonna be in.
Yep.
Just talking about my junk. Yeah, sorry about that. I took it to a dirty place.
Actually, no, I was like, what?
Oh, because it's a tiny penis. I'm so sorry.
You need to make a miniature of it.
Yeah. What? No, that'd be if it was
a
big.
Bigature.
Yeah.
Like, we need to see this thing.
Yeah,
we got to make
exactly.
it a little bigger.
So yeah, we've talked about some important shit. We talked to an awesome dude.
We did. He is an awesome guy.
You're gonna hear, like I said, you're gonna hear a
Buy
lot more
book.
from him. Buy his books. Check out his comic. It's on Comixology and all those kinds of places. You can get it digital for cheap. You can find it I'm pretty sure it's been published in store, and you can get it and stuff like that.
Probably.
So go check it out. It's a worthwhile check out. He's a super interesting guy. Go check out bjmendelson.com. That's his website, so you can see everything on
It's a nice looking website too, man. Whoever does it for him.
It's no miscastcommentary.com, I'll tell you that.
Nothing.
I don't know who does that website for us, but his penis has to be built in bigatures.
Damn right it does.
Yeah. So anyways, yeah, definitely check all that stuff out next week too. Listen to the full interview. It was a lot of fun. Check out the episode.
I think I drank so much pop today that I'm going into diabetic shock right now.
Oh, we're gonna do it.
Yeah. I'm getting all warm.
I'm not. Well, it's because the air conditioner's
off.
Oh
We're God.
It's I'm not doing the math, but it's been 37 degrees Celsius today as we record this. And I've had the AC on all day, and then we turned it off, and then instantly my dog caught fire. And it's been...
Whoa.
This is not what I
We
planned.
couldn't turn it back on either because we're doing an episode.
Yeah, exactly. It makes noise.
Sorry, dog.
I can only do so much noise reduction before we start to sound all tinny and shit.
Is just oof.
So,
it's actually a lot easier to take it than you think.
Yeah, it's fine. I'm still not doing it. It's just easier to take out the flaming dog.
Yeah, the poor singed deer.
All right. So as always, check us out, miscastcommentary.com, on Twitter at Miscast Podcast. I'm at JK Findley, at Miscast Todd over here, at Miscast TV. Go check out the YouTube page of Miscast TV and Miscast Commentary. All these good things. We're on Instagram at Miscast Commentary. Why aren't you checking that thing out? We're taking weird pictures.
Yeah, what the hell?
Well, people are checking it out. That we have followers and all that
Good.
stuff, but I'm just saying. Like,
Come on, more.
Yeah, exactly. I want to make the ones who aren't feel guilty.
Feel
Or the ones
bad.
who follow us, but they just followed us as like a courtesy thing and they haven't actually really checked us out. They can get in there.
Get
Watch.
in there.
I made a sexy video one time of me editing and whispering. I was just going, shh, Todd beats me if I don't get this done.
That's the truth.
Yeah. He always beats me with a phone book, so there's no bruises.
That's right. The Chinese phone book, too, is huge.
Gigantic.
It's actually not really as big as you think. It's kind of in sections.
It's because like everybody lives in one apartment, so it's just the one number.
Asking for somebody's a nightmare.
Yeah, exactly. So anyways, do all those things we told you to do. Just do them, okay? Don't think, just do it. And then send me $50 in an unmarked envelope that says, mark the envelope that says ricin on it, and then I'll just open it up because, fuck it.
Don't send me $50. Don't send him $50.
No, put ricin in his and say it's $50.
Ooh.
Just whatever. Do what you want. Send us all ricin. I don't give a shit. You don't have our addresses.
Yeah, whatever. Just send it somewhere.
Yeah.
Blame us.
Yeah. Don't make ricin. How about that? Let's just full stop. Don't make ricin.
Full stop.
Go. Well, it's
writing
all
a letter here. What are we?
all this all this British talk of the royal wedding. And,
yes. Full stop, Harry.
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding. Oh yeah.
I was trying to come up with like a full go kind of reference, but they don't have anything like that. All right. Tune in next week. You're getting essentially 2 episodes that are about the same length. They're both going to be about 2 hours in length.
Sweet.
So strap in.
That's a lot of content. We're better than the WWE Network, man. We're not even $9.99 a month.
No.
Look at all this streaming goodness.
Don't tell Todd, or I'm going to have to start paying him.
Hey, what?
We're so expensive.
Oh, my God.
And everybody gets this.
Oh, Lord.
It's a mandatory charge on
mandatory
their phone bill.
gold membership charge. They're like, how did they get my credit card number?
Anybody who's ever given money to the Red Cross doesn't realize, but they've got a constant payment coming into us now.
Sweet.
Thanks, everybody in Haiti.
Like an Office Space. Yeah.
All right, guys. We will see you next week. We won't see you. You'll hear us, and that's when you see us, because we're right behind you. You've been murdered.
Yeah, he had to tell you that because you can't really hear it because you're dead.
Yeah, exactly. Imagine that was like some murderer's thing. He just like sliced your throat and he goes, and he's like, just so you know, you've been murdered by me.
Oh my God.
Oh no. I thought this was a mugging. It's
Yeah,
much worse.
Oh yeah, I thought it was my mom. Thanks, bud. Like,
You're the worst.
yeah, what would you say? Nothing, because you say
That was what I was gonna say. It's like your throat was slit. You're dead.
Yeah,
You're dead.
yeah, I'm gonna say fuck all.
All right, guys. We'll see you next week.
Bye.
This has been Miscast Commentary with your hosts, Joe Finley and Todd Murray. Executive producer, Joe Finley. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe to the podcast wherever you listen. Visit www.miscastcommentary.com for all news related to the podcast. Miscast Commentary is a Miscast media production.
And another thing, Huck.